So hello everyone, welcome back to NABARD Grade A 2024 crash course, and today we are going to try to start our second chapter, Introduction to Agriculture. Try to understand, this is not a chapter which is just going to basically tell you what agriculture is, but something more than that. Why we are trying to understand the basic introduction to agriculture, in which we will just understand agriculture, its meaning and branches, because this is a particular chapter which will lay the foundation for your next or future chapters, which are very, very important. So we are not directly jumping to cropping systems, cropping pattern. We are not directly jumping to agronomy, horticulture, animal husbandry. But rather than that, we are just trying to build a foundation in which you will try to understand agriculture from holistic point of view. You will try to understand the branches of agriculture in an precise way. And more importantly, you will also understand certain nitty-gritties which are very important before moving forward in our overall journey. Not only that, try to understand that this chapter seems to be very easy. This chapter seems to be very basic. But if you look at various topics in this chapter, then definitely these repeat in your NABARD Grade A exam. Basically, I would say that this is a chapter which will also lay the foundation, and at the same time, there are so much of static and data related questions which can come from this chapter itself. So let us start this chapter basically with the meaning of agriculture and its branches. So as you all know, we will begin this chapter with the definition of agriculture. Definition of agriculture in the sense, see, there are various subjective definitions of agriculture. From that, the most important thing we have to understand is to adapt to any of these definitions and to understand the basic meaning of these definitions. We don't need to run after the definitions, because maybe United States Department of America gives different definition for agriculture. Indian Council on Agricultural Research ICAR gives different definition of agriculture. तो हर एक इंस्टीट्यूट का definition क्या आप recite करोगे? No, that's not possible. So we are not going to recite the definitions, but we are definitely trying to get into the deep meaning, what agriculture is all about and what agriculture unfolds for us. Before jumping down into the definitions also, we will also try to break down this term of agri and culture, so as to understand the basic meaning of the agriculture. And not only that, we will also try to look into what is agriculture actually made up of. Okay, so see, already we have launched NABARD Grade A crash course for all of you. If you are that student who is looking and who is aiming for NABARD Grade A 2024, the phase 1 is on 1st September, and many of the classes in our crash course are already done, but some of the classes are still going on. So make sure that you join this particular course. This is just a demo class which I have uploaded, so that you get an idea that how we cover our course and what would be best other than uploading the first basic chapter to understand the agriculture. So from this only you can get an idea that how we are going to cover various other classes also. So agriculture, the first definition which we are having with ourselves is agriculture may be defined as art, science, business of producing crops, livestock for economic purposes. This is your first definition. We will go by taking one by one definitions, and those one by one definitions, then further we will try to break them down. First, let me break down this word itself into two parts, agri and culture. The origination of the word agriculture comes from agri plus cultus. Agri plus cultus. And this word breakdown will make us realize it is nothing but culturing crops in your field. So growing anything or culturing, that is the cultus word. So culturing in the sense cultivation. So cultivation of crops, any plant of the field or of the ground. This is your basic definition or basic meaning of the word itself, agriculture. Now we will try to understand the word agriculture, but before that I have one question. When we talk about agriculture and when we consider agriculture just as an occupational activity, I will stop you there. Why? Because agriculture is not just an occupational activity. See, primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector. Primary sector includes various natural associated occupational activities like mining, timber or agriculture. Then comes secondary sector, which includes industries and manufacturing sector, and tertiary sector, which includes services sector. Look at all of these opportunities. Even if you are a doctor, or if you are a businessman, if you are in industries, an engineer, but still none of these occupational activity has culture in them, because culture is more than an occupation. Occupation, when we try to define, it is nothing but an economic activity done for livelihood, that's it. But agriculture is something more than that. And why I'm telling you? Because the word itself also tells this. Agriculture is not just because it is cultivation of crops. The real meaning of agriculture is also because this plantation, see, it is very simple. If the word agriculture tells you to cultivate crops or plantation of crops of the field, they would have called it just the plantation. But it is not so, right? So agriculture starts from the birth of civilization. Birth of civilization. And how come agriculture starts with the birth of civilization? So I will tell you a story now to understand how important agriculture, not just as an occupational activity, actually is. Okay? So a story starts with man being in the cave, starting with doing hunting, being nomadic, and even trying to suffice or satisfy his hunger in the forest. That man didn't know how to produce his own food. That is why he was dependent on hunting. That is why he was dependent on the forest products or crops which were already in the forests. So this man was nomadic, who used to travel from one place to other, and he didn't settle. Later, man understood the process of pollination, germination, through which he was introduced to agriculture. That is, cultivating crops in a defined space, being dependent on that defined space, and then getting food products, foodstuffs from that defined space. And this is how the genesis of agriculture started. The nomadic man got converted into settled man, because as that man understood that this defined land is continuously giving me the food supply year after year, if I continue to do agricultural activity on the same land, the same land will give me enough produce that I will be able to suffice my hunger also, my family's hunger also, my overall community's hunger also. And in this way, we can stay at one position only. We don't need to move from one place to other. In this way, people from nomadic tribes who were roaming here and there and dependent on hunting, they became well settled in a specific area. So the agriculture is responsible for first settlement of people, and this settlement of people led into building of communities. Building of communities is nothing but people first became dependent on agriculture. Settlement of people resulted into formation of families. Formation of families resulted into formation of communities. More and more communities were formed automatically. These communities led to formation of social spheres or societies. So families formed, communities formed, societies formed. These societies, as they were formed, it also gave the political recognition, and because of the social formation, political formation also took place. In the sense, formation of villages, towns, cities, kingdoms. Then in these kingdoms, the governance started, the state was formed, some places kings, some places governments. This institutionalization of government started. So automatically you will see settlement. Agriculture resulted into settlement. Settlement resulted into social formation or building up of societies. Societies then built up the political structures, and then political structures later built up economic markets. That means once the cities, towns, kingdoms were formed, automatically markets were also created, because the agricultural produce which was there, that produce was sold into the same market. So in this way, agriculture was responsible for settlement, then formation of societies, then formation of political structures, and then formation of economic markets. In this, agriculture is also responsible for evolution of civilization itself. So you could see from settlement of the man till your economic markets development, political structures development, societal building up of societies or societal formations, development of culture, civilization, everything is back because of agriculture. Everything has genesis which is connected to agriculture. If agriculture, if you remove from the equation, these all things would have formed in very delayed way. Okay, so that is why agriculture is very, very important. Now let us try to understand definition one by one. Agriculture is defined as art, science and business of producing crops and livestock. Now, agriculture is an occupational activity, or agriculture, when we are trying to understand, we already know, we tried to break it down into culturing of crops or cultivation of crops on a field or on a land, right? When you try to understand it, it could be a random activity also. Random activity as in that randomly you are trying to cultivate certain crops. But it is not so. Agriculture is, the first definition tells us that it is art also, it is science also, and it is business also. There would be certain reason for it. Why? So agriculture is art, and as you know, for example, take example of art, maybe dancing, maybe painting. So all these art related activities or art forms require a specific skill and have to be done in specific manner. There is a certain way of doing those. You cannot do randomly. That's why agriculture has to be performed in such a way that it has to be carried out in skillful manner and in certain way. There are certain techniques to do agriculture, and that is why in country also, if you see in our India, there are certain areas where agricultural activities are very, very viable, profitable, and they flourish in agriculture. A town like Hivre Bazar has all the farmers who are earning more than 1 crore. 400 kilometers away from Hivre Bazar is Marathwada region, where massive farmer suicides are happening. So this shows you that there are certain areas which are rich because of agriculture and certain areas where agriculture is in dooms. So the reason being that agriculture is an art, the agricultural occupation and operations have to be performed on the farm in most skillful manner with a certain way, certain technique. It is also a science. Along with the art, it is a science also. Now why science? Try to understand that if you see from decade to decade or from centuries to century, each year when you are doing agriculture, the internal and external factors keep on changing. It may be availability of water, availability and fertility of soil, the climate change which is happening, and because of that, agriculture has to be vibrant as the surroundings. And that is why application of technologies, application of various techniques which are based on scientific principles is very, very important. It may be the methodologies, it may be scientific theories, practicals, experimentations, and then building all those and applying those in the field. That is what your agricultural sciences tells you about, and that is why agriculture is a combination of art also and science also. And the third part is nobody is doing agricultural occupation for free. Whatever is cultivated in the field will go in the market for its sale. So that is why agriculture aims to maximize the returns, to get more profits, to increase the output, yield, productivity through farm mechanization and commercialization. Farm mechanization is nothing but using of advanced equipments in the farm, and commercialization is nothing but where anything which is produced, it has a commercial value. It gives easy returns to us in the market. So all these three things are involved to define the agricultural branch for producing crops. So agriculture is an art which produces the crops, it's a science which produces the crops, it is a business which produces the crops along with the livestock, because agriculture, when you are doing in the farm, you will not just cultivate the crops. Along with the crops, you will also try to domesticate the animals for economic purposes. Okay, so this is your first definition to understand. Our second definition is a basic definition which is nothing but a formula. Agriculture is nothing but it is cultivation of lands for production of crops. So simple, cultivation of lands plus production of crops. So you can put this formula in a bracket to understand agriculture. It is cultivation of land. Try to understand, when you are saying that agricultural cultivation, we have a term which is field versus land. In Hindi, if I am trying to tell you, khet versus zameen. Okay, so why it is called as field and why it is called as land, and why agriculture is associated more with field and not with land? It is because agricultural field is that soil substrate, that land which is having all the required resources, inner potential to cultivate a crop, to nurture a crop to its highest potential, and where the crops can grow very in healthy way. So that is why, that is the difference between field and a land. A land can be random substrate of rocks which may or may not support your plant growth. So this is your field, and that is why for formation of field or making fields, cultivation of land is very, very important. This cultivation of land would be maybe increasing the nutrients in the soil, maybe improving the soil texture, soil particles. For example, random boulders are there in the soil. So breaking down those boulders and making the soil finer. So cultivation of the land and production of the crops for a regular supply of food and other needs for the progress of nation is also called as agriculture. So agriculture is cultivation of land and cultivation of crops for a regular supply of food and other needs for the progress of nation. The practice of agriculture is also known as farming. When agriculture is just seen from the occupational point of view, it would be called as agriculture. When it is considered as a practice which farmers do as their lifestyle, from one season to other, that is called as farming. Because farm is nothing but again a essential property related to occupation for a farmer who is completely dependent on the agriculture for his occupation. So that is also called as farming. Now there is a definition of agriculture which has been given by a legislature, which is Agricultural Act of 1947. It says that agriculture is nothing but cultivation of land and production of the crops, these two words, but along with this you have to add all the allied activities. And what are these allied activities according to this act? It may be horticulture, fruit growing, seed growing, dairy farming is for the milk purposes, livestock breeding, nothing but new young ones are produced, then use of land through grazing land, meadow land, osier land, market gardens, nursery grounds. That is, here try to understand that according to this act, agriculture is nothing but cultivation of crop plus all the allied activities which would be there in your farm or which would be there in your field. Simple as that. So three definitions are there, you have to understand them well. Now let us try to understand the branches of agriculture. So when I am defining the branches of agriculture, try to understand, when we are looking at the branches, there are three factors on which the agriculture has been classified. First is crop production, it is nothing but simple crop growth. Second is animal rearing. Along with the crop growth, we are also trying to domesticate the animal. And third is the ancillary activities along with the agriculture, which are called as allied activities. So the main branch of agriculture is called as agronomy. When we are trying to understand agronomy, it is the most scientific way of doing agriculture. It is crop production and crop management. When you are trying to understand agronomy, it is nothing but agro and nomy. Okay, nomy is nothing but here agro and nomy. We'll try to see the holistic definition and the meaning, but the basic meaning of agronomy is nothing but production of the crops and management of the crops. So based on the production of crops, okay, crop production or production of crops, the branch of agriculture or agriculture has been divided into two branches. First is agronomy, second is horticulture. Agronomy is the main branch of agriculture, most scientific way, and major of the crops which are grown on the field. Okay, so field crops which are grown, it may be cereals, oil seeds, plantation crops, legumes, pulses. All these crops are your field crops. All the field crops fall in the branch of agronomy. There are other certain crops which are not necessary to grow on the field. They can be also grown in gardens. For all of them, these are classified into horticulture, which is hortus and cultus. Hortus is nothing but garden cultivation. Then the agriculture is also classified based on animal rearing, on animal husbandry and aquaculture. For aquaculture, you can also write other word which is general fisheries. Okay, so animal rearing, when we are talking about, it is nothing but animal husbandry which can be further broken down into various other branches. For example, animal husbandry would be dairy farming, that is where cattle rearing is done. Okay, then poultry, okay, and even other animals which are reared or domesticated for specific purposes. Then allied activities, when we are talking about, suppose you are having a land of 10 hectares. Along with doing agricultural activity, if there are certain ancillary or associated activities which you are doing with your agriculture, which are parallel to your agriculture, that all activities are called as allied activities. These includes forestry. It's nothing but plantation of forest wood, hardwood or hardwood trees or tall trees which are in the forest along with the agriculture. Then agricultural engineering, it is nothing but how engineering sciences, how your engineering technologies can be used in agriculture to find the solutions of agricultural problems. And last is home sciences, how your agricultural produce can be used at an household level so as to create various final products. So in this way, agriculture is divided into various branches. Now let us see one by one what are these branches talking about. When we talk about agronomy, as I told you, it is crop production and field management. Everything which we produce on the field and everything which we manage on the field. Horticulture is garden cultivation. Animal husbandry is livestock cultivation. Animal husbandry is nothing but animals are all those animals which you can domesticate. Husband is nothing but to take care of. So you provide shelter, food to these animals so that in return they provide you various products. It may be meat, it may be milk, it may be eggs. So this is an symbiotic relationship between humans and your animals. You provide them the shelter, food, and then they provide you the agriculture, the overall products such as meat and eggs. Aquaculture, when we are talking about completely aquatic ecosystems, now this would be freshwater, marine, estuarine. That's why I was saying that it could be also called as fisheries. Agricultural engineering, to find solutions of agricultural problems. Forestry is to cultivate hardwood trees or perennial trees. Perennial trees are which for their complete growth cycle it requires more than 2 to 3 years. Okay, and then comes home sciences, which is study of health, diet and other subjects related to home. Now let us start our discussion with the first branch of agriculture, the main branch of agriculture, which is the most scientific way of doing agricultural practices. It is agricultural science. So as I told you, it deals with the principles and practices of the crop production and field management. So the definition is very simple. It is principles and practices of crop production and field management. The second definition of agronomy is it is the branch of agricultural science which deals with principles and practices of soil, water and crop management. So try to understand that while doing agriculture, agronomy is all about all the scientific ways, scientific techniques and principles and practices which are associated with growing crops and managing the crops. Simple. The word also, if you try to break it down, agro means field. Field is nothing but, as I told you, a natural land which is having potential to support, nurture and grow crops on its own. Okay, so field is nothing but matured land or matured soil which has all the nutrients, resources to grow crops to its fullest health. And nomos means to manage. So when you are understanding agronomy through words, it is nothing but crop and field management, as simple as that. So now why agronomy is very, very important? Whenever agricultural practices are taken into consideration, whenever you are trying to grow the crops or doing agricultural cultivation in a field, at that time, that agriculture definitely has to be done in by using various principles, by using those practices which will increase your production, increase your yield, productivity, and that all brings us to the most scientific way of doing agriculture, which is nothing but agronomy. It is also the field management which is very, very important. It is all about how you are managing the resources, how you are managing the capital, how you are managing various activities which are associated to agriculture, and holistically how you are doing agriculture. Is it profitable or not? It is sustainable or not? Viable or not? All these answers are given by agronomy. Agronomy is not just restricted to field, but it involves all the internal and external factors based on which your agriculture is successful or not, that is dependent on. And that is why agronomy is the first branch and very important scientific branch of agriculture. When we talk about the practicality in India, as much as field crops are concerned, field crops includes all the crops which are grown in the field, on the land, in 10 hectares, 20 hectares, 50 hectares. All these agricultural practices are associated with agronomy, and that's how it is important. Then comes horticulture. When we are trying to understand horticulture, horticulture can be again broken down into two words, hortus and cultura. Hortus is nothing but garden and cultura is nothing but cultivation. So as I told you, horticulture is nothing but garden cultivation. But does it mean literally garden cultivation? No. Gardening crops are those crops. There are certain plants, herbs, shrubs, certain luscious and fleshy plants which need not to grow in the field. You don't need to grow them on land. You can basically grow them even a small flower pot. These all plants could be grown in a normal garden which is outside your house, on your terrace, on your balcony, etc. And that is why horticulture is called as a garden cultivation, where space is not important, when area of cultivation is not that important. Horticulture is again a branch of agriculture which deals with cultivation of garden crops like fruit crops, all the fruits, vegetable crops, all the vegetables, ornamental plants, plants which are used for their beauty, okay, plants which are used for their beauty, for their scenic nature. Then commercial flowers are all those which are having good commercial value, their market value is also high. Ornamental plants, when I am talking about lily, rose, orchids, these are your ornamental plants. Commercial flowers, when I am talking about plants which are having high commercial value, it may be marigold, it may be again your lilies, your orchids. Then your medicinal crops like your adulsa, like your even tulsi, these are your medicinal crops. Aromatic crops, these are the crops which are essentially used for their scent or their overall smell which comes from these crops or the flowers or fruits. Spices crops, as we all know, the condiments from particular crop which are used to add in the food to enhance the taste and smell. For example, pepper, cardamom. Plantation crops, there are certain crops which are having good commercial value, but these crops are perennial in nature and grown only in certain areas like coastal areas, islands. These are plantation crops, coconut, tobacco. These are some of the example. Individual trees are your hardwood long trees, shrubs, climbers and post-harvest management. All these things are included in your horticulture. Now why post-harvest management? Because cultivation of such luscious plants, vegetables, fruits, these all crops are having very less shelf life. That means they would rot very easily, very quickly. To prevent the rotting of these crops, even post-harvest management, logistics is very important. So this is what the definition of horticulture is. There are again sub-branches of horticulture itself, and there are 8 types of horticulture. First branch, sub-branch is pomology. Pomology is nothing but the cultivation of fruits, production of fruits and marketing of fruits. Example could be apples, blackberry, fig, dates. These are all fruits. Viticulture, when I am talking about, it is again cultivation of grapes, production of grapes, marketing of grapes. Arboriculture, along with the horticultural crops, when you are trying to grow forest hardwood trees, long trees which are grown, then cut down, that is felling of the trees is done, then again harvesting is done, then again plantation of the tree is done, then again felling of the trees is done. In this way, study, selection, plantation, care, removal of individual trees, shrubs, vines and other perennial woody trees, hardwood trees, this is called as arboriculture. So arboriculture culture. Cultus, we all know, culture comes from the word cultures, and arbor is nothing but that comes from the word cultivation of hardwood trees or long trees. Okay. Then comes your floriculture. It is nothing but cultivation, production and marketing of floral crops like roses, flowers, gardens, jasmine, lilies. Okay. Then we talk about landscape horticulture. For example, there are certain areas or extended lands. For example, if suppose this land is 50 hectares. So extended lands which are spread across a very long length of area. Okay, so the areas which are having very large piece of land, and on that large piece of land, if cultivation of certain ornamental plants, plantation crops, flower crops is done in such a way that the plants which are existing and the structures of the plant, they beautify the place because of their coloration, they maintain the natural scenery, that is called as landscape horticulture. So horticulture, as you already know, a small garden if we cultivate with some of the flowers, it will beautify your small space, right? If you increase the area of the horticulture, that means if you give more area, if the horticultural practice is done on a large piece of land, then that large piece of land, that scenic beauty will improve. Such type of horticultural practices will be called as landscape horticulture, where the landscape is a large area under cultivation. Olericulture is nothing but the cultivation, marketing, production of your vegetable growing. It deals with growing vegetable crops which are non-woody or herbaceous, fleshy, greeny plants. It also includes all the plants or vegetables where every part of a plant could be edible as a vegetable. Okay, so carrots, asparagus, lettuce, cauliflower. So even your certain crops where the vegetables are not just the fruits and flowers morphologically, but also the storage parts like roots, stems. For example, carrots, then your potato, then your lettuce. These all are your vegetables. Oenology is nothing but the aspects of wine and winemaking from the grapefruit or citrus fruit. And then comes post-harvest management. It is nothing but how you can prevent the spoilage of horticultural crops, how you can increase the shelf life of horticultural crops. This is what all the branches of horticulture talk about. Then comes animal husbandry. Again, break down the word. Animals are nothing but all the domesticated animals which can stay under the shelter and along with the humans, which are from community point of view, which are anthropogenic in nature. So these are the animals, or also called as livestock. Stock is nothing but a resource. If you are having a resource which gives you return and which is living entity, such living resource can be called as living stock or livestock. That is why animals are called as livestock. Cattle rearing, swine rearing, poultry cultivation, poultry, emu, duck farming, then even rabbit farming, goat rearing, sheep rearing, all these comes in your animals or livestock which can be cultivated for any of the goods. For example, cattle can give you dairy or milk, poultry can give you meat and eggs, etc. Husband, I already told you, he is the one who takes care. So animal husbandry is nothing but taking care of animals so as in return they will give us something. Okay, so animal husbandry, when we are talking about branch of agriculture concerned with animals that are raised, provided shelter, provided food for meat, fiber, milk, eggs and other products. Here animal husbandry also includes the day-to-day care, even selective breeding, that is the generation of young ones, and even raising the livestock, that is growing the livestock from young ones to mature to old. Then comes the next branch of agriculture, that is aquaculture. Again, as I told you, you can even call it fisheries or fisheries science. Okay, It is a study of fresh water, where it could be inland water or even a lake, even a sea, but it is completely fresh water in nature. Fresh water in the sense here the salinity or pH, when you are looking at, it's neutral. Marine will include the more saline water, oceans, sea, and estuarine aquatic systems. Estuaries are nothing but a place where your fresh water and marine water meets. So fisheries science is study of all the three water systems and the marine ecology which is involved in these systems. So fisheries science uses stock assessment to understand the health of the stock and determine how much can be fished. So overall aquaculture or fisheries is all about growing fishes, but in scientific way. For example, how you are going to do rearing of the fishes, how much stock or seedlings you will be required. Seedlings are nothing but basic. How much eggs do you require to produce 1,000 fishes? From those 1,000 fishes, how much new generation fishes or new eggs will be produced? In this way, your fish cultivation is done in your closed atmosphere or in situ atmosphere. Okay? And in this way, your cultivation of fish is done. Generally, the examples could be shrimp cultivation, prawn farming, fish farming. This is done a lot. The areas famous for it are Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, etc. Forestry, when we are talking about, again, it is derived from the word forest, which also means wooded country. So forest are nothing but natural growth of hardwood trees or longer trees which are perennial in nature. When cultivation of such trees is done by humans along with their agricultural practices, that is called as forestry. Forestry is also further divided into agroforestry as well as various other branches. We will see that in the forestry chapter. So it is defined as theory and practice of all that constitutes in creation, that is plantation of the crop, that or forest trees, conservation, scientific management of forest, utilization of various resources which are associated with forest. It could be timber, it could be your wood, it could be rubber, it could be honey, etc. It could be lac, etc. So all these things you can get from the forest. This is your forestry. Then comes agricultural engineering. As I already told you, it is a branch of engineering where advanced technologies, equipments, machineries, various techniques of management, developmental practices related to land and resources, mechanization, automation can be used on the farming in the farming practices, on the farm field as well as off the farm field, for plantation, harvesting, storage, processing of the farm commodities, so that we can enhance our overall efficiency in agricultural activities. For example, use of drones for picking the fruits, use of drones for applying the fertilizers and insecticides, use of remote sensing and GIS technology for your crop analysis. Okay, crop analysis. That's why agri-engineering is very famous these days, because there are various problems which are associated, like crop diseases, attack of insects and pests, okay, optimum utilization of resources. All these things we have to understand, that all these things can be made better and applied through the various advanced technologies. Example could be, one of the best example is drones. Home sciences, when we are talking about, it can be defined as a multidisciplinary field of study which deals with health, diet, caring children, textile, garments. That is something which is associated with household. Everything which is associated with household and household activities, and how agriculture is associated with them. Okay, so it may be making the crops or from the crops making textiles such as sieving or textile business. It could be even producing good quality dietary products. Okay, even your diet or food, various foods which are from the various regions, managing resources, preparation of garments. These are some of the things which come in home sciences. There are also other branches of agriculture. Let us try to understand them. Agricultural engineering we have understand already. Soil sciences is nothing but It is a study of soil when soil or soil substrate is considered as a natural resource, where the surface of the soil formation, classification, mapping, physical, chemical, biological and other properties of soil, all these are analyzed so that it will help us in utilization of soil and management of the soil to improve the quality of the soil such that the crops automatically grow well in various soils. Plant pathology is nothing but it is branch of agricultural science which tells us the causes of disease, particular disorders which are associated with a plant, management of plant diseases, and entomology is nothing but when the agriculture is dealing with the study of various insects and pests which are attacking the crop, destroying the crop health and also overall affecting the crop management in an season or in a year. So plant pathology is more about diseases which are occurring in the crops. Entomology is all about which type of insects or pests are attacking the crops. Extension education, when we are talking about, it is a behavioral science. Okay, so extension education is nothing but application of theoretical knowledge, application of theory into the practical knowledge. And agricultural extension education is nothing but all the agricultural practices, agricultural theory, theoretical knowledge from the books, when it is practically applied in the field through demonstrations, through experimentations, bringing the education out of closed walls and applying it on the field through practical demonstrations, that is called as extension education. So these are all the branches of agriculture. Now we will talk about allied activities. Allied activities are nothing but associated or ancillary activities along with the agriculture which we can do. So first is apiculture, which deals with beekeeping or honey production. Sericulture, which is associated with cultivation, management and growth of silkworms, where it is also, sericulture is also little bit animal husbandry only, because you are trying to manage, cultivate, take care of silkworms. The silkworm scientific name is Bombyx mori, which is a previous year NABARD question. And domestication of silk production, here the end stage or the return which you get is the production of threads of silkworm. But the real process, if you see, sericulture is all about nurturing silkworms from its pupa stage to its cocoon stage. And from that cocoon, till its cocoon stage, it gives us threads of silkworm which can be utilized for preparing silk textiles. Lac culture is nothing but how an insect, Laccifer lacca, okay, is again used for preparation of lac. Okay, so domestication of that lac insect and production of lac. So these are some of your allied activities. Again, so we have finished most of the branches of agriculture. Now there are certain theoretical aspects also which you can definitely go through the notes. Okay, so we all know that agriculture, there are various revolutions which are associated with agriculture. For example, green revolution. So green revolution is one. This green revolution, when I am talking about, it is more of how India became a food surplus country from food deficit country. So here, similar to that, where there are various revolutions such as protein revolution, yellow revolution, black revolution, golden revolution. NABARD always has a habit of asking one or other question from this table. So it is very important to go through this table also, like grey revolution, your evergreen revolution, silver revolution, red revolution. Here your type of revolution has been given. Here product which is associated with revolution, that has been given. And here which are the personalities which are associated with the revolution, that is given. Our concern should be to go after and read all the aspects. Tomorrow if a question comes that blue revolution is related to what, then the answer should be fish production or marine, overall marine or aquaculture. And the father of blue revolution in India is Dr. Arun Krishnan. This type of question can definitely come in exam. Okay, so next part will definitely try to see in the next lecture. We will stop here. This was a demo class to make you understand that how we are covering all our classes in NABARD Grade A 2024 crash course. So if you have still not joined it, definitely just go and check out the course on our website. Thank you very much and see you next time.